Broad Street Review Podcast, Philly's online hub for arts, culture, and commentary, where art and ideas meet. I am your host, Darnell Radford.
Yeah. I was thinking earlier about, even in tough times, there are things you can find as positives, like silver linings, I guess. Things like I never thought I was going to take as many walks as I take, drop 10 pounds, something like
that. Me too. I dropped 10 pounds too. Actually, I really did.
Yeah, because I remember just going out and it seemed like more people were out and about because of the concerns of being cooped up inside. And you probably find out that there are people that you were connected to that you didn't really make the time to connect with them when they could be inside your home safely. And now you're meeting them in the park and you're meeting them out in public. And so those things might be positives.
Yeah, I do think there are a lot of positives that happened this year. The protests and then Joe Biden winning being two of the bigger ones. But obviously, the theater industry aspect, hard to find a lot of positives in it for a lot of people, just in terms of like so much loss of work for so many people at all at the same time, but it does seem it will be back. Obviously, it's just who will survive.
I like to think that we're all very strong, and we wore many hats to begin with. So hopefully we're putting on one of those other hats until we can put on our stage hats again. Yeah, but it is tough. And every time I hear more information about, it's sort of like On High is kind of like New York and Broadway, and you're waiting to hear that Broadway is like, we're confident enough to come back. But if they're not confident enough to come back, it's going to be hard to see, the regional areas having that confidence.
Yeah, it is. No, I think it's like you got to be very patient, obviously, and just. I do. So one exciting thing is the virtual theater. That is new and it's interesting. Obviously, there's so much to learn about it still, and we are at the beginning of that process. But there are plenty of people that have made exciting things that are interesting. I actually watched this show. I wanted to tell you about it. It's last night. It's on Netflix. It's called Nate by Natalie Palamides, and I saw it in Edinburgh 2 years ago. And Netflix filmed it with like 7 or 8 cameras, live audience, everything. And I watched it last night. It is the first time I've seen a theater show film, because it does blend into stand-up and clown and other stuff, but it's very successful as a film. And that was really exciting, because just for so long, it's hard to see shows translate well to film or record, and this did. And I'm really curious if it's going to lead Netflix to produce more shows, which they must have found her from Edinburgh, because it was a huge hit there. And that's really cool. Like, a lot of potential in that happening for people. And that's great because she's going to have a much, much wider audience than she had before.
I feel like right now is and I definitely want your opinion on this. I feel like right now is the prime time for a solo artist. I think the mindset of a traditional theater is, how do I get, the eye line of a stage on a computer screen, through this,
Right.
the lens of a webcam. And of course they can, attach a real camera and film it and put it up. And there's tons of ways like that. But how do you give that experience? It's sort of the same thing as, we go to a movie. A movie is on a much grander scale because that they had a greater canvas to use, and so we're in the theater, and the theater is more intimate because we're right there with them. And now we're inside your living room. So how do we scale this? It's almost like it was already scaled down. Theater was already scaled down, but now we have to scale it down even further.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just television, it's computer screens and phones. And, someone's going to lay on their bed with their phone in landscape and really drink this in the same way they would. I mean, if we do it right, the same way we would if a handful of us were in a very cozy space in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone is, I hope all of our creative people are thinking about how to create that kind of intimacy without sort of parodying the fact that we're on a computer still.
Yeah, and I don't think you went to Edinburgh, you saw the shows, you know what the experience is like, how weird these venues are, and some are great, and fancy, and but that experience is still, you can't replicate that. Like you can't, and I do think theater practitioners right now, it's like you can't replicate the exact live experience that you want to. You can sort of imitate it, but also in the fact that you can't replicate it, there are opportunities in the fact that it's kind of a new medium. At least that's how I'm sort of approaching it. But I also think that it is a great time for solo shows. That is right. I mean, there's nothing worse, no offense to all the Zoom shows, but the Zoom box when two actors are talking to each other on Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around it. We understand why it happens. I watched a stage reading by a friend of mine recently, and it was great. And like, I love her work, but the actors are all in the boxes, and I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more live. Sure. And so, but that's an example of sort of like replicating the live, but the nice part about the solo show or the one person show or whatever is that you just have the one box, and you could have two actors in the same space, but right now we don't do that because, of concerns about health and safety. But that does give the solo show an advantage. I will say that I think there's a lot of solo show artists that are actually, it is a good time, but for a lot of us, it is actually a particularly bad time because we're depressed, because all the things that you might have been building towards, like a tour or things like that, doing shows that, okay, those all came to an end. But also it's like, I'll be honest, like, I don't think it's an easy time to create new work right now. Like, at least for me, I'm remounting One-Man Nutcracker. This is a show that I did that all these people attended last year, a live show, and I'm remounting it. I would not do this show for the first time this year with this pandemic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The way I made the show was to have a live audience show up and see the show, and that is its best form currently. I'm going to try to adapt it for this new form. I'm going to try to use the camera in a way that I don't do a lot, or I'm going to try to recreate the live experience for the audience member. I want them to feel like we are in the same room. Like, that is my hope with the show. And that is a really hard thing to do, to recreate that. But It is possible, because I have felt that through watching a few shows where I did feel very connected to what was happening when it was live and in that moment. There are ways to recreate it. And there's been a lot of, like, the Bearded Ladies have done live shows. Pagarn has done live shows for their students. And they've been trying all different sorts of things with the mediums and the technology. And, you have some people doing outdoor shows that were actually live, like Theater in the X. And, in a sense, it's sort of like, I feel like we have to sort of fight for our place right now. Like, I think it's one of the reasons I wanted to do the Nutcracker shows, because I just wanted people to remember theater. It's still here. It's still going to happen. We're still going to do live shows. It's going to take time, but I want people not to, to remember how, whatever the Philadelphia theater scene was before. We know there are lots of problems. Always, every scene has problems, but we do have a vibrant scene in a lot of ways that is the reason that I live in Philadelphia and the reason that I stayed here for the last 10 years. And, I want people to remember that we have this scene happening. And I just feel like, in a small way for me, like, this is just like a gesture towards that, and then again, like, I'm doing the show in Plays and Players Theater. Well, Plays and Players Theater, I mean, you think of the history of that place and all the theaters in Philadelphia, but just how the amount of people that have smoked cigarettes in that room and had PBRs and performed in the Black Box over the last 10 years, 20 years.
And watched it transform over all the years. Yeah,
and this has got to be the quietest time it's ever had. Like, the theater so part of me, when I was thinking about that, was like, it feels like a little bit of a resurrection, let's have a live thing happen in here, because I don't want this space to be forgotten, and I just think it's important. Who knows what next year is going to be? I mean, I have no predictions, but it looks like for the next 6 months, we'll still be doing shows like this. And I hope more people do. But also, I don't think there's anything wrong with just taking a break and taking 2 years off if you can afford it. And if you can, just to think about the craft and what, what is the reason you're doing theater or we are doing theater in the first place, or all these questions. It is a great time to take a break. And I feel like a lot of people are doing that. And I think that's okay, because I've been doing that too. I didn't do anything the entire year. I basically didn't do any shows. And that was part of it, where I just couldn't, there's so much happening in our world, still is, that it just seemed hard to create something new. It's like, when you feel like there's like the world around you is collapsing or changing or fighting, and there's all these things are happening, it's hard to go home and be like, all right, I'm going to do my next show. Like, especially when it's outside your door, as you know, because we've been in Philadelphia. That's like literally, we open the door.
We've never gotten this much press.
Oh my God.
Not just before the election, but we became sort of like an epicenter at a point where it was like our voice was heard all over the world. And that was kind of amazing to see and be a part of. And in a pandemic as well, people saying, this is how important this is. This matters so much to us, and it should matter to everyone. And I don't even know that anyone felt like they were risking their lives out there because they were doing all the right things. It felt like a love fest. It was like solidarity in a way, where it was like, if you end up in one of those demonstrations, if you end up walking alongside them and then you join them, you find out that there are people handing out bottled water because it's a hot day. The social media thread was about how to take care of yourself in this, if you were coming out to demonstrate. And we did so many of those things, and they were so amazing to just see people be so motivated that you can't help but think that on the other side of this, there is some meaningful change, and that we're not going to we're not going to rest and pretend that we didn't work so hard to make our voices heard over that late spring and summer, to get to that point. And the other thing, when you talk about the artists not having, some artists not having really any ideas right now or that energy, we do have to look at it in hindsight to figure out how to tell the story. We might be taking notes, or you walk away, or you might find that it's snippets of your social media, these video clips you put on Instagram, these tweets on Twitter, these posts on Facebook. They all come together, and it will be the rough draft of the next great piece. I think it is going to be interesting to see, and I think any artists out there listening, I just encourage that. I encourage that to take every note that you took over the past year, and really look at that as something meaningful. You wouldn't have jotted it down. You wouldn't have said it. You wouldn't have documented it in the way that you did if it didn't mean something. And it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
It is going to be interesting. I do think, like you said, that it is a year for people to reflect upon, and probably going into next year, and that there's a lot of material there, and that this, the opportunity the pandemic has given, which is not an opportunity to people that have died from the pandemic or lost their lives. Yes. Obviously that is it's for me, in my own family, I have not had any loss. That being said, I have many friends that I've talked to who they're people in their family, and there's people I know actually in Philly that have been in hospitals, and they were scared of dying. And actually a friend of mine who he runs he used to run this Mexican butcher shop in the Italian market I did shows in a few years ago. He called me out of the blue like 3 days ago. I hadn't talked to him in years, and he told me this entire story about him getting sick and being in the hospital for months, and that he thought he was going to die, and he prayed to God, and now he's alive and he's back. And it's like, holy, so this guy's like went through a life-changing moment like that.
Yeah.
But that aside, even for someone like myself, I've been very fortunate. I've not contracted anything. I've not been sick this entire time. I do think there are, with like a change in your plans, that there are a lot of new opportunities that come about. They can be opportunities for personal change or personal growth. It can be societal opportunities, like we're witnessing, like people confronting racial injustices that have existed for over hundreds of years. But like, those are opportunities that it's exciting to see people, to see them take it, take those opportunities while you can. I do hope they can. One of the worst things I hear from people is this idea of going back to normal. Like, they're like, oh, I can't wait until things go back to normal. I understand the sentiment. I understand it. But at the same time, let's be honest, like, we look at normal.
Do we really want to get back to?
And normal was pretty rough for a lot of people. Not only that, there's poverty, all these things. It's like, no, we don't want to go back to normal. We want to define a new normal that is more inclusive and has more justice. And I think that's important, that like, and here's the other thing people don't seem to, like, there is no going back. Like, we'll never go back to before. Like, I really do think that our world on a global level has changed from this event, and that we, it's going to continue progressing towards this change. And that's it. Either you embrace it, or I guess it'll just pass you by, as all change sort of does. Like, it's exciting. There's so many things to be excited about. That being said, if I had personal loss in my life from this pandemic or things like that, I think I'd be looking at it very differently. So I try to keep that in the back, keep that in my mind, because I haven't really been truly touched by this. And for like the 300,000 people that have died and their families and all that, I think they probably have a very different perspective on this, because how could you not? This is the year you lost your loved one. Or I had a friend who lost his mother. It's like, you're not going to forget that year. And you know what? That year's not, you're not going to say, that year was a great time for opportunity and change. Like, no, that's going to be like a tragic time. Like, I think that's And so we all have these different experiences happening, but it does seem like things are moving towards a good direction, which is hopeful. I mean, thank God Trump lost, obviously. Can you imagine how horrible this world would have been with him winning and with them further pandemic deniers and all that? Like, him losing was so massive for this country, at least for Philadelphia. And I'm thankful for that every single day I wake up. I swear to God, because I can see and imagine that world where he continues for 4 more years, and you can only imagine how could we even survive that? And so that was scary. That was legitimately scary, I think, for a lot of people.
The whole time I was thinking David Carl in Edinburgh, who had produced Trump Lear.
Yeah.
And I was saying, on the one hand, Trump lost, but on the other hand, Trump lost.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a huge opportunity for David Carl, and I really hope I hope we'll be able to look at it through a different lens, when we're able to see that live again. That's good. That's going to be interesting to look at the things we experience now in this last 4 years in the rear view mirror, and see where we are then, which is what we are always doing in the theater. We're always taking a look at what was, what happened, and trying to see it through a different perspective.
And in some weird way, I don't know if you feel this way. I feel like when live theater comes back, and I make fun of plenty of shows, and there's plenty of bad shows, but I feel like the first show I see, I'm going to be so moved by that in a way that I feel like now without it, that I appreciate it more now that it's gone. Like when theater was around and producing, I could be snarky or, all these sort of things. But now that it's gone, I miss it. And also I want it back. I want it, it's interesting to think about all the changes we had in the theater world itself during this, that's sort of it was happening. It was all over the place, things about companies here. And then sort of, it seems to have died down right now. But there was a period of time where it felt like the theater world was going through massive changes with trying to be more inclusive and stuff. And I'm will that continue when it comes back, or will we get fucking guys and dolls with an all white cast, or will we, what? And I'm curious. Who's
waiting to go business as usual and produce the same season that they had planned for the last 5 years. And I really hope that the mindset is that you can't, whatever your 2021 plan was, most successful theater company, most profitable theater company in the region, you can't come back to the table with that. It is a different world. And as much as people want to get back into a live space, I don't know if that necessarily is what they're going to be looking for.
Right.
I really hope so too. I mean, I love the fact that
will you be able to sit shoulder to shoulder with someone who's coughing and watch a show?
Yes. Or someone snoring and falling asleep.
Someone coughing during a show. I mean, a million times.
No, not at all. Even with whatever kind of distance, we'll be prepared, because this is going to be a gradual thing.
Yeah.
I think every beautiful main stage that is hundreds of seats is going to feel like a black box, in terms of the amount of people that'll be around and the amount of space, But I wonder if that intimacy might be another lens as well. There's something about seeing this main stage show, this main stage production on a slow matinee kind of audience, kind of attendance, because I have no doubt that our artists will rise to the occasion, as they always do, on stage and backstage. But to be in the audience in those early shows, it is going to be amazing. You're right. We're going to just be completely celebratory and say,
ovation, I'm telling you.
They did it, everyone. We're going to we were overly generous with the standing ovation before, but that was mainly opening night. So we're definitely going to be overly
Oh, there's gonna be
generous
standing
with the standing
ovation
O's
for
now.
everything. I feel like every single thing. And, you know, just the idea of seeing a show and then afterwards going outside and going to a bar nearby. That feels
Yes.
revolutionary right now.
And then talking about that show, and like, it really, word of mouth will be the best advertising once more, because we'll be out there talking about how it feels so good to be out there and how great it was. And oh, and that experience, I can't believe how long it's been since I felt that way. Like, I saw a production last night, Theater Exile.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Deep Head.
Yes,
It's a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different experience. It
Mhm.
is theater, but it doesn't feel like we were opening night at Theater Exile's brand new, beautiful space. You know,
We
so
hardly got to use.
yes, exactly. But the fact that we saw a theater production from start to finish was wonderful, and remembering all of those things that we look forward to
Mm.
in the elevation of the story, in the elevation of the characters. All of those things have been amazing. I was saying earlier on, you know, someone who loves musicals has been getting a lot of joy from the Zoom sing along. You know, with the where they get all of the artists that they can, the most visible or noticeable artists, to come and sing that hit song that just tugs at your heartstrings. And it is kind of amazing to see what they're able to pull together to continue to bring that life in. And I'm really hoping that some of those things are used on the marketing side to like promote coming back to a live space and being there. So here's a little tidbit, but you really have to come see this live. Remember that feeling of being in a live space, waiting for something to happen, and almost anything can happen. And no matter how knowledgeable about this piece you are, you're still settled in to go for a journey.
Yeah.
And that's going to be great. We're definitely waiting for that to return. Let's talk about, you know, offering a One-Man Nutcracker. It's already a change from what we're used to, because it's one man, but now it's going to be in this virtual space. Tell us about how you thought about how you were going to present this space, that this piece that was written for a live space in a virtual space.
Yeah, I mean, I really mean it when I say my hope, just like how Theater Exile, I'm sure, hoped with their show, is that I do want to, the hope is to create the feeling that you are there. Now, obviously, you can't do that. And all what I'm doing is literally, it's a camera. And, you know, it's a camera on the space. I might have it move around. I haven't figured that out part a lot. But you, Darnell, or audience member that buys a ticket, is the audience, the camera. So in a sense, it's an audience, it's a one-man show, and it's an audience of one person, because the camera, in a sense, is the camera is the audience. And so it's almost like, it's crazy to think about. So a lot will be, as opposed to like a normal theater show where you have 50 people and you're turning and you know, you're trying to be all inclusive. This gets very much down to a smaller thing. So in a sense, this show, which it's not even a big show per se, but parts of it will be sort of compressed down, because the world of the show now is not open. It's now, it is almost a box. It is the Zoom box or whatever that I'm performing for. So it just means a lot of moments, like things will happen where it's closer to things to use that medium, right? Like, yeah, there are shadows that I use, and the shadows, actually, the one thing that's cool is shadows look great on camera. I don't know why, but it's a very simple thing, and it just looks cool. So things like that's really nice magic. The piece itself, it's like part of the show at the end. Spoiler: at the end of the show, in 2019, I was yelling about how great 2020 is going to be. At the end of the show in 2019, there's this end where I have this big monologue and it builds up, and I'm like, you can do anything, and it's 2020. And because the story of my show is me learning ballet and me learning how to dance. So an underlying narrative is, I'm someone who can't stretch, I'm not flexible, I'm not good, but here, I'm trying to do ballet, and look at me do ballet. And this proves that anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it and they train and they work hard. That's part of the show. Like, that is the idea of the show. And it's like all this year I've thought about that ending where I'm yelling, and 2020, it's 2020. And it's like, you can do it. And just like how different that year turned out to be. But I think in a sense that that message is still relevant. Yeah, 2020 did not work out how I had planned. However, you do have to look forward to the next year, no matter what it is. Even if you're in a, what if you're in a country ravaged by war, like things like this, like in order to get through things, like optimism helps carry you through. Even if it's ridiculous and ludicrous, like some sense of optimism will help you enter the next year. And I think for me, the show is a gesture of optimism towards me, because by doing it, it makes me happy too. And I feel like I connect with people, and it's a gesture towards the audience or the people that choose to engage in this. And the idea being that, let's get this next year started right, because it is not going to be easy. I mean, we're about to enter into winter, and we all know what winter is like normally.
Yeah.
So this is winter compounded, because we're even more isolated. But that sort of gesture again of like, okay, here we go. It's 2021, and this is going to be the year, and I'm going to do it. And like, that is a good sentiment to put out there. I think for me personally, and also for anyone as an audience member, that, we will get through this. We can still make things happen. And you know what? My true plan is that this show will actually be good on Zoom, which is like, I want it to be an enjoyable experience and fun and like entertaining, and my hope is that people are laughing at their homes. And I plan on performing it as if it's live. To me, I'm trying to actually like trick my brain into, and the thing is, when you are on the camera, just like how we're talking now, but it's live. We're having a real conversation. This isn't pre-recorded. This is actually happening right now. And so if theater is live, then that's part of it, right? Like we're, and that's why I'm not like, I have a great video of the One-Man Nutcracker I filmed last year, and I thought, oh, it'd be really sweet just to like release the video on some show dates, because I don't have to do any work that way. And but then I was like, no, I can't, because it's got to be live. Like, that is the thing about theater in general. Yeah. So long story short is basically, I do think this is like a gesture towards this new year. At this point, what do we have left but a little bit of optimism? I mean, we have to hope that things are going to get better, and we have to work towards things getting better. That means that people should do, if you have a show, please, do it. Please do it, because I really think people we need content. We need, like, I know I do, in summer, I want to watch stuff. I want to participate. And I think it's important to put things out there. And, maybe I'll have 100 people watch this live stream. That's great. For those 100 people, it can make their whole Christmas, and it's not their whole Christmas, but it can make them have a really fun day that day. And if you're going through all this, and as I think anyone, as we've gone through the pandemic, when you have a good day during this time, it is often pretty memorable, because most days are forgettable. They can be really hard, but like, they're mostly forgettable these days. There's this monotony to the way things have been going. And when you see a show, and a show that you enjoy like that and you can connect to, it does give you that spark of, okay, I'm going to go out there, and like, it motivates you. And I think for myself, and I think hopefully for the audience, that will be, I don't know, a really good thing to put out there, putting out the energy. And I truly wish things were different. At the same time, when I say I wish they were different, I mean, I wish like 250,000 people hadn't died. I wish people had worn masks from the beginning. I wish, like, it seems like things are going to get better, and art is a part of that. Art is a part of a cultural life, and it's like why I live in Philadelphia. That's why I live in a city. That's why I've been here. It's like it's for the art, it's for the theater, it's for film, it's for dance, all the stuff. Like that's the reason I'm here, and
you never really realize how much of your conversation is about art, because we're so involved in it, whether you're attending a piece or working on a piece or planning a piece or reading up about a piece, like getting ideas. Like we were just mainlining our community is at a complete standstill now. That is a huge part of so many people. It is hard to think about a life without theater. I mean, we said it. We were saying it before this. There have been so many people who had their time before they could find their true voice in theater. Like maybe they didn't know exactly where they fit in there, tried to go do something else. Like maybe other people would encourage them to maybe you got to step out of this world, and they step out of that world and feel so isolated because of the space that they called home. Like they know where they're supposed to be, and sometimes just being there is enough. And then if you have found your place, what's in there in that space, to not be able to cross the boards or enter a theater or be backstage anywhere, or just engage with those friends and make new friends. The people who are fortunate enough to work consistently throughout the year, throughout the season, are meeting new people all the time and returning to people that they work very well with. All of those things have been reduced to how's it going?
Yeah, right.
We can't talk about
what are you working on? Oh, that's right, nothing.
Yeah, did you make it out to Norristown last week? No, I didn't.
Yeah, I do like that conversation's kind of ended a little bit, but you'd be shocked. People still ask me what I'm working on, and and it's true. I'm like, I am always working on something, but also it's like nothing. I'm working on nothing. I'm working on from the from March on. I've said this entire time that I'm just taking most things. I'm just taking day by day through the summer and all that. I was just like, I can't see the future right now, but I can see Friday, and it's just week by week, day by day, and that helped me a lot. Because if I actually tried to comprehend everything that was happening or occurring, or what my place or whatever, I don't think I could actually fathom it or process it. And I've had plenty of boring, sort of empty-ish days. Like I really haven't. There's months I didn't work at all, which this is the least amount that I've worked in my lifetime since I was 15 years old. Part of that has been really cool. Like I've read some books. I read Middlemarch. A very long, boring book by George Eliot, and I did some, a lot of bicycling, cycling, stuff like that. I've been unemployed in the past. I know how to do it. I know how to fill my time. This is a whole new challenge, though, with everything closed around you. However, very good in terms of not spending money. So I have to say that sort of silver lining. I can kind of exist this way.
That's what I meant about the silver linings. Some of the things you don't even realize. I was spending that much on lunch.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because you were out and about. And because you were out and about and you were hustling, you justified it to yourself. You're like, I earned this. I'm buying this.
Yeah.
Now you're at home, like eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like, I mean,
losing weight.
You love them, or that's all you have
anymore. Like, I'm so sick of cooking. Who wants to? At this point, it was in the beginning. It was fun. You're like, oh, I'm gonna cook all the time, make these fantastic meals. Yeah, and it really does get down to PB&Js at this point. It is hard to cook, and it is. I love. Not having to wake up any time is always a luxury. And if you get to do that for months on end, it's quite luxurious. At the same time, you do miss, I think all of us, I like having some routine. I like having a schedule. I definitely miss my previous routine. But I hate to do the John Lennon quote, but life happens while you're making plans, and it's so true right now. Yeah, it's just you don't plan everything.
The simple thing of getting dressed to go to the next destination. Like now you don't even, you're
God.
right. You don't have to go. Even if you are fortunate enough to work from home, there's a
Yeah.
part of you that doesn't change. You're like, can I just work from bed today? I probably can, but
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
get up and try to create this routine. I will say that, partly because I have a cat who,
Yeah.
will not stand for it. I do get up and, I get coffee
Yeah.
started, there's snacks and all that kind of pushes. And I've been trying to, me and my partner, we constantly talk about like, we got to get these key things done,
Mhm.
get a shower. If you get that done,
Yeah.
you could stop working for the rest of the day if you want.
I know, right? Yeah, no, because you did all your work. You showered.
Which of course doesn't happen for us, but yeah.
No, absolutely.
Well, I like the idea. When I was thinking about this, I was like, I think it'd be really cool if we were just if the camera was just the best seat in the house,
Yeah.
The camera is placed where you consider the best seat in the house, and that's the kind of view that you have. I mean, that's something to think about too, like
Mhm.
the sort of tennis that you watch,
Yeah.
as action moves from left to right. It would be nice to see something like that, or someone get creative with how do you create this tight shot, this tight in on the action that you would have had if you were still in the space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I still have a lot of questions to answer about this cameras thing. And I've been dealing with I'm trying to figure out all this technology stuff right now.
Hmm.
But I do know whatever we make, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. But it's
Yeah.
like I've got a lot. It's honestly the most exciting part about this whole process because it is a new show. This
Yeah.
show it was built for a normal audience. Now it's a camera. And can I make it, can you make that exciting? Yeah. I have a lot of questions how to do that. I think I'll learn a lot from it's only 4 shows total. And we'll just see 4 shows. And last year I did 20 shows or something. So it shows you because obviously it just didn't make sense to me to try. Like originally my whole plan was I was going to have a tour this year, all this. And then I was going to do like every time the PA Ballet did a show of Nutcracker, I was going to copy their schedule for the entire month of December. I was going to do 25. It was going to be insane. Obviously, that didn't happen. I still think it's a great idea. Hopefully next year. But
Couldn't get seats to the Nutcracker. What about
exactly.
One-Man?
Yeah, and they really worked the previous one, and people responded so well. I had so many people that are just fans of Nutcracker, like they had seen it so many times, and they wanted to see a different version of it.
Different take on it.
And so they would come, and they seemed, they enjoyed it because there's so many parts of the Nutcracker that are kind of ridiculous, strange, weird, but the ballet doesn't have opportunities to poke fun at stuff. And when you're in a situation where you're doing a one-man show, you get to like poke all the holes through the story and show all the ridiculous things and get to laugh at it, just like laugh at how stupid some of this stuff is, but it still keeps going. And also at the same time, capture that spirit of what the Nutcracker is. And for me, that's about like magic and sort of fairy tales and that world of that kids enter, this world, possible things becoming possible. And I have in the show, I feel like I have both happening where you have the sort of satire, but you also keep the heart of the show, which is the music and the magic and the wonder. And, the show does have at the end, there's this monologue about like, it's about like why you come to the theater. And it's why, and I say to the audience, like, you're here because, this is the magic that you want. And it's the magic that we no longer have. And when I mean that, I mean in the real world, like when you walk into the theater, it's not, video games and films and graphic stuff and stuff on our screen. The magic is relegated to a square device that was made in a different country and imported here, and it's limited. But when you come to a high quality theater show, it's like you're in it. You know, it's truly virtual reality because like you're there and the magic is in front of you, and it's not on a screen. It's not limited in a box. It's everywhere, and that is why I think one of the reasons that we go, and you know, that's why it will come back, and that's why, because you can't replace that. You still can't replace that. You know, the screen. There is a actual physical limitation to being on a screen, and you know, it's a box and all that, and so it's like that will never be replaced, and therefore you know that it will come back because it has to, because there's nothing else like it.
Do you have any standout moments that you remember from the first production of One-Man Nutcracker?
Yes,
that come to mind.
Yeah, I had ballet dance. I always loved when I had ballet dancers, because then they could I would ask them how my ballet moves were, and also they seemed to they enjoyed it in a different way. I'll say the standout moments. I had a number of children come to the show, and I feel like this show can hit. It's one of those shows that it can hit with 5-year-olds. Because it's got shadows, it's got funny stuff, it's got, silly stuff, and it can hit with 50-year-olds because it has actually a narrative. And I feel like for a lot of good shows like that, where it's like I love it when the 5-year-old and the 50-year-old are both satisfied, and they had different journeys, but they both leave like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
And I did experience that. Now, overall, most of the audience was older. But the kids themselves, like hearing their reactions and just what they responded to. And I love kids in audiences because, they laugh when they think it's funny. They don't care if other people are laughing. They're just going to, and they talk when they want to talk. And so they don't have to do all the rules that other people do. And so I can always get a good indication of like what is really working well from those kids. The whole experience last year was just this. It was almost overwhelming in terms of the response was more than I've had, and the enthusiasm by people was strong, and like it was really moving, and like really felt like, wow, what a great place to finally get to after 7 or 8 years of doing solo shows. One Man Apocalypse Now, which is I enjoy, but doesn't have the same reach as Nutcracker. It's so small and niche. And so it's so nice to do something that was like family friendly and like sort of like thematically friendly, and that it just felt, all inclusive in that sense. And I mean, my most memorable part was I had some friends come and they did Christmas caroling outside the show before the show began, which I think I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But they actually did it. So they showed up, like 7 of them. And they're singing these Christmas carols, and the audience is standing around like looking, like what is going on? Like what has happened? And the lobby at Plays and Players, so they're near that piano, and there's no room. Everyone's like, oh, because I hadn't opened the theater, and they got these people singing these songs, and then they made up a song that was like Chris Davis's One-Man Nutcracker. It was brilliant. And also, and I apologize. I shouldn't say this, but also one of the critics from Broad Street Review accidentally, the chair fell out. The new risers they had in Plays and Players, and they hadn't made it, and he fell during the show. It was
no.
And we stopped the whole show, and I stopped him, and we stopped everything. In the middle of the show, we went up, and it was fine. Totally worked out fine. He was okay. Yeah. Everyone was okay. That was just like, what? That's live theater, right? Like live theater, someone literally can fall.
We won't name names, but everybody understands that we do need to take a moment here. I'm sorry.
And the best part was he was like, keep going. Because I came over, was talking, are you okay? He's like, keep going. He's literally lying like on his side. He's like, keep going. It's good. I was like, all right. He seems to be okay. And
oh man,
I mean, funny because he wasn't hurt. If he's hurt, you got a whole different situation.
Just the situation of it all.
Yeah. And also, it's like, I feel like that is how I'm approaching this next thing. Like with this new technology and trying to film and stream it, I am planning on things going awry all the time because, that's live. Doing live stuff means you don't know what's going to happen. It can fail. It can get all messed up. You can forget whatever. But that is what theater is. Like someone might fall out of the chair. They might, all these things because it's live. Like it's not recorded, so you don't get to control everything. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of like how this pandemic is. It's like it's live. It's happening. We don't control it. It's just going to keep doing its thing until, we can deal with it. But like, it's, that's life.
I feel like the theater community should get a billboard that says this pandemic is like live theater.
Yeah.
Unpredictable.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of tickets.
I mean, there's not to shamelessly use it for promotional.
About coronavirus, because I'm telling you, they're coming. Just wait. How many shows are you going to see where it's going to be like, I was alone in my apartment for 5 months.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? It's going to be a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying about hindsight. We're going to see this for the next 5 years. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember when the decade changed over? We were all optimistic.
Yeah.
And then, we had no idea this information was coming around. And yes, there are so many ways to tell stories about this last year. It, in a way, is the new Rent. How do you measure a year? Because so many things happen. Some people saw unfortunate moments. Some people saw unexpected opportunities of growth, and some people were at a standstill and had to rethink, and some people realized that this intermission, that we call it, allowed them to think about their future more intently. Like sometimes when you're in the car and the wheels are moving, you just can't stop and think about, I don't have a 5-year plan, or I didn't think about what was going to happen. Do I want to have children, or something? Mm-hmm. Do I want to make a move to a different city? You might meet some people that encourage you to think about taking your craft elsewhere. There's so much of that you usually don't think about when everything seems to be the normal that we all want to get back to, or we think we want to get back to. But just like in a play, you started at the pandemic and the goal is to get to normal. And before you get to normal, you realize that normal isn't what you wanted at all. And you make a change, and the change is interesting. And that's why we're engaged. So we watch that, and on the other side, discuss. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is sort of the blueprint, but it will be interesting to see the point of view that this last year has had on so many artists who are thinking about, what to do next. But at the same time, I love the fact that this piece is, it's satire and it's fun. It's an escape.
Yeah.
We did experience it in a theater, and now we get to experience it from the comfort of our home. So we'll at least get a chance to see what that's like. And
I tell people, I mean, the way I do, I think if you can try to cast it to a big TV, try to put it on a big screen to dominate your space, because I do that with these shows, and I think it makes a big difference to not have your laptop, so that way you're not checking your other tabs or browsers or switching out, that you're just sitting back watching. And I think that is the way to do it. I mean, the same way you would watch a movie, like you want it on that big screen, and it's going to make it more powerful. And I think that is the way to do this experience if you can. Laptop's totally fine, but it's just I really do enjoy it. I sat back and watched the Pig Iron show a few months ago, Zero Cost House, on the big screen, and it was cool just having sitting back, enjoying myself, drinking tea and watching this thing. And it made a difference. It was on my laptop. I feel like I wouldn't have had as fun an experience Yeah. It's one little basic thing that I hope people are doing, that, cast it or do an HDMI port, but it makes a huge difference for the experience for me.
I think another interesting thing is that test of staying put. When you are in a theater, you can't just get up and leave, and you'll hold it till intermission if there is one, or if there isn't one, you're going to hold it till the end.
Fails that test.
But now you're upstairs and you turn the volume up while you go run to the kitchen or something.
It's it does show you, like, part of like going to the theater is getting away from all the distracting things in your own life, like
shaking off the day and escaping.
Yeah, in your home you got so much going on. You got your cat crying, you got whatever, you can make a cup of tea like that. There's parts of it that's just awesome, so cool, obviously. But then, it shows you why it's nice to, you can do it. And I've done it several times. You just mentally be like, I'm watching this show. I'm going to watch the whole thing. I'm not going to move until it's over. And the thing is, and to be fair, my show, I think it's like going to be 45 minutes long. So that you can't complain when you got a 45-minute show.
Get some snacks, get some popcorn, get some hot cider.
On Netflix, Nate, that show's 60 minutes long, which is like, that's the length for solo shows in general. You never go above 60 unless you're someone that can, but overall you just don't go above 60. Like, less than 60 is always great. And at this now, shorter is better. Always. For me as an audience member, it's better. For me as a performer, it's better. We don't live in a world of 2-hour solo plays. Yeah, it's just another good thing about this experience. It'll be nice.
And you can have fun with it at the end and say, that 15 minutes was earmarked for commercials.
Yeah,
we decided to do it commercial free.
Yeah, that'd be great to have commercials. Commercials in the middle. That'd be.
But see, these are the things I think. That's why I'm saying, like, we need to pay attention and explore what the hybrid is. We want to get back into live theater, but this is a vehicle for up and coming work. This is a vehicle for smaller, more intimate pieces, and I think we can find ways to really engage an audience that we didn't think would join us in the theater by giving them a 45-minute taste, on a virtual, on a computer screen. So I hope that when we come back, because we're coming back, we're just die hard, but I hope that maybe this opened up the experience for people who we didn't think are our audience. I also think that we should pay attention to the to the gamers right now.
Oh yeah,
because they have figured out how to do this. They know how to create scenes and have backgrounds and multi-cameras and all that stuff. And usually it's like in a bedroom that you have no idea until the light, the main lights come on and they turn all that off. And so when you see how they're able to escape into a video game that they're playing, we might be able to implement some of that into theater to create these experiences, to make them more enjoyable on this screen, while preserving what is so beautiful and magical about the live experience.
Yeah.
So I think it's like there's a teleplay for television. Like, what's the play called for a computer? Is it a CompuPlay or something?
It's gonna happen. Yeah, it's definitely
because the cues are gonna be like OBS and some sort of OBS combination with QLab. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'm sure our production people are thinking about these things right now, but I don't want to see this go away, but I want to return to what we love so much about our community. And I'm so glad that everyone who's been able to put something out there to continue to engage an audience has been able to do it and find some creative way to do it, because we miss it. We can't wait to come back home. It was an intermission. Now it's a fire drill.
Right.
We've been out here way too long. Our coats are still inside, and
I know.
We got to figure out what to do.
Longer than anyone anticipated, or a lot of people. But like you said, we will be back, and you can just watch One-Man Nutcracker, and now it's
and it's a 2-for-1. You get to experience One-Man Nutcracker, which is going to be streamed live from Plays and Players Theater, and it's in a way supporting Plays and Players Theater too, because you're in that space. So now you are in welcoming both One-Man Nutcracker and Plays and Players Theater in your mind and your hearts.
Yeah.
As we go through the holiday season. One-Man Nutcracker. This is 4 performances. So you go to realchrisdavis.com for tickets and information, and click on the link and pick a date and get somewhere comfortable on the couch and experience One-Man Nutcracker. Chris,
Yeah.
it's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's always a pleasure to find you wherever you are. I feel like I'm following you all over the world.
Yeah.
And that's been fun. And I can't wait till we do that again.
Yeah.
But it's always great to chat with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing this through a different lens as well.
Yeah, and it's gonna, in the end, it'll be fun, and that is really the main goal, right? Is like, don't we all like? We just having fun right now feels like an act of revolution or something like, and it's a good thing to do that at times, just for a couple hours, and that is nice, and something that I'm looking forward to for myself too, and even just all the build up, all the work, I'm rehearsing every day, all those things, like it's fun. That is why I do theater. I do it. I love stories. I love that, but I also love I think it's fun to do, and and I like watching it too, and that's an important part. And I feel like he's sometimes easily forgotten. So it's good to get back to that and just get back to like, this is meant to be entertainment, and an hour of your life is going to pass by and you're going to laugh.
Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.